Dun, 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 dun. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. That's right. Welcome back to 31 Days of Star Trek. Ooh, ooh, it's time to talk about the movies. But first, we got a few odds and ends we need to clear up. We got the Creation Salutes Star Trek Grand Slam 5 shirt, which I think I failed to mention in the previous video. But yeah, back in the day, well, my grandfather and I mostly, but we all went to Star Trek conventions uh, back in the day. And the Grand Slam was the convention of the year where they got almost everybody from the cast to show up and do autographs. And speaking of which, I guess we'll start off there. Not you. So just a few. I've got Marina Sirtis and Michael Dorn from TNG. Nana Visitor and Rene Auberjonois from DS9, and I think I should have Scotty James Doohan somewhere, but I might have put that in a safe. Who knows? And just to touch up on the books, Ben's books from last time, I mentioned some of the other stories that were very interesting to the lore, including the Eugenics Wars, books 1 and 2. Of course, telling the story of Khan and how he was, I guess, engineered, but birthed and stuff like that. Then I was able to find the 34th Rule and another book that I found really interesting, A Stitch in Time, because Garrick is always interesting and Quark is always interesting. So be sure to check those out if you can. And finally, whoop, with the autographed glossies, I also found the To Boldly Go collector's edition. I guess this is the pamphlet from Star Trek The Experience at the Las Vegas Hilton, which is now defunct. And yeah, To Boldly Go. Got on the bridge of the Enterprise D. And what is it? I bought my emotional support tribble that day. I touched one of the bridge panels before they roped them off, and they said it was not registered to my DNA. Which, how do they know that I'm not from temporal investigations traveling back to the past, huh? And yeah, so interesting stuff. Today we're talking about, in our final video for the month, we're talking about Star Trek Original Motion Picture Collection. Boom! So you got that. You got that nice scene here. Of course, if you lift it up, it's just a plastic slip cover there. And the Starfleet insignia is actually here. And you probably won't be able to make it out from this video, but it is that pseudo 3D, pseudo holographic type thing that looks pretty cool. But when you change the angles, it changes. So that's cool. What do we got here? That is where it starts off. Yes, we've got Star Trek The Motion Picture. And I'm going to start off by saying it is not as bad as people tend to think it is. Yes, it is 2 hours and 16 minutes and a little slow. They probably could have cut that down to a 145 and had a great movie instead of a good movie. But all the science fiction is there, relating to real life and the Voyager program. Well, spoiler alert here, if you haven't seen them. But if you haven't seen them, then is there really a spoiler for 1979? It's either 8 or 9 movie. But yeah, the Voyager program. Voyager 6. And yeah, the costumes, I mean, they worked on them, of course, for the later movies, but it brought the franchise back, and I thought it was a pretty decent start. Spock on Vulcan, buffing up his Vulcan logic ways, so that was interesting. It's not, it's a good movie, despite what people say. It's not great, and certainly not the best Star Trek movie, because it's so slow. And before you start worrying, because when I watched it on Amazon last time, and when we watched it on DVD this time, So I was like, is it broken? And I'm frantically trying to check on the internet, like, why am I seeing a blank screen with overture music? And that was just a style that they did because they used to have orchestras playing music before the show. And I mean, it's an interesting choice, but if you think your DVD is broken because you're only hearing sound for like the first 5 or 7 or however many minutes it actually is, then it's kind of a problem. But yeah, I alerted mom to that fact, and then once it actually kicked into the credits and opening scene and all of that, it's just a normal movie. But that's something to look out for with Star Trek 1. Then, what many consider to be the best Star Trek 2, The Wrath of Khan, and I think it's only PG, which is kind of surprising because Khan gets really grotesque at the end there when he's blown up from the starships. Oh yeah, I didn't show you the disc or lining, but basically the first disc is going to look, and all the discs are going to look like that, very plain, but that's okay, no liner notes. And you got the thin cases for, well, I mean, if you're in the box anyway, but I suppose if they did sell them separately, it would be space saving on the shelf. But anyway, yeah, no, they just stepped it up. They improved the costume design. The pacing is just perfect. There's never a dull moment. And yeah, I cannot say enough about Star Trek 2. The action is awesome. The story is awesome. The connecting from the original series. And yeah, the Chekhov was not in season 1 when Space Heat occurred, but Walter Koenig in one of the special features has an explanation for that that's quite amusing. And I just attribute it to different shifts. The Enterprise is going to have different shifts, and they just rotate the crew, like they actually did throughout the second and third seasons as well, because Chekhov wasn't in every episode, so Sulu wasn't in every episode. Some of that was when he was filming the Green Berets, I believe. So, not everyone was in every episode, apart from Kirk, Spock, McCoy, and even Scotty was missing from a few, I think. You'd think I would remember 100% since I just watched them all, but yeah, Star Trek 2, again, fantastic movie, and just really intelligent battle design when they're passing each other through the nebula and not even knowing it because sensors are down. So yeah, if you're gonna watch one Star Trek movie, well, I don't know, it could be your choice. Then they followed it up with Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock. If you can see Spock there, I don't know, it's probably very shiny there. And again, they say that the even number Treks are the better movies. And while I wouldn't disagree with that, there's not as much disparity as some people might lead you to believe. So just watch for yourself. I think 3 is a great movie. Oh, I forgot to mention Star Trek 2, when they did the Genesis effect. That was actually one of the first, if not the first, use of computer graphics during the Genesis information screen that ever made it to the big screen, because this was 1982. So there's some history there. But yeah, they shot the torpedo tube, which apparently they must have taken out all the explosives from, otherwise Spock's body would have died on the planet. And no, he regenerates. So the Genesis effect, creating that as kind of a loophole, but a way for him to get the character back into the universe. I mean, it's science fiction, so if you can't suspend belief for, like I mentioned, and they mentioned that one thing that they want you to believe, you centralize everything around that one thing, and then all the extra stuff builds around that. Don't have the audience believe too many, or try to believe too many things at the same time. But if you're going from the beginning, you also have all that lore behind you, so if you believe that one step at a time, it builds up to this point. And yeah, I had no problem with anything in this movie, really. It's got the great Klingon music. It's got Christopher Lloyd. Oh my God! So one of the best Klingons probably in Trek history. So that's fantastic. And they managed to steal the ship with not even a skeleton crew, less than a skeleton crew, to get over to the Genesis planet, which is now forbidden, and then, well, later on destroyed in the movie. But it's fantastic, and we get Spock back, which leads us to my personal favorite, and probably a lot of people's as well, which is why I'm saying you can either watch 2 or 4 if you want to start in the middle. But I recommend just starting back at the beginning, you know. So we got Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home. Admiral, there be whales here! This is probably one of my favorite lines, but there's so many good lines in this movie. The back there, is that actually... Okay, they are using different pictures. It's just so similar because you got the Enterprise there and the Enterprise there in the first one, so... But, yeah, no. Oh, man. Star Trek 4 is awesome. I thought we had gone to a midnight showing with the premiere, but apparently we went to a late night showing after work because the whole family gathered to watch this movie in the theaters. And, I just loved it. You got this mysterious probe coming out of nowhere, disrupting everything, and there's no way to communicate it. But Spock figures out that there can be no reply to this thing, and they manipulate the sound frequency to move it underwater, and then they realize that, yeah, it's the humpback whales that were communicating with this probe probably hundreds of thousands of years before humans existed. And they slingshot around the sun to go back in time, which was also a feature in the original series. I think that was Assignment Earth, if I'm not mistaken. But, okay, and they go back to 1986, and it's awesome. So, yeah, Kirk and Spock, they never break up the team, but they split the party. Never split the party. Little D&D reference there for you. But Kirk and Spock go and find out about the whales, and he swims with the whales, which pisses off the assistant manager and the love interest for Kirk. And so there's that whole storyline. Sulu is going to fly the transparent aluminum, which Scotty is going to help the 1986 guy who actually did invent it in the future. But he's just giving the formula early so they can build the whale tank for the Klingon bird of prey. And McCoy, so that's Team 2. Or is it Team 1? Or is it Team 3? No, Team 1's got to be Kirk and Spock. I think maybe they're Team 3. Because Team 2 then is Uhura and Chekhov. And they're going to recrystallize the dilithium crystals because they used all their energy doing the time travel. And they need to recomp that with nuclear power. And they're looking for the nuclear vessels in Alameda. And I think it's across the bay in Alameda. Alameda, where is Alameda? But so they go onto the Enterprise naval vessel, and they take the photons from the reactor there. And again, they also split the party because they need to beam out one at a time because there's no energy. And that's what the whole Chekhov getting injured and, well, captured, injured, and then the hospital scene ensues from there. So yeah, I mean, it's just the pacing is awesome. The references back and forth. You don't use money in the 23rd century, do you? Well, we don't. So yeah, Star Trek 4 is awesome, and they save the day. And everyone gets justice except the Klingons. There shall be no peace as long as Kirk lives. And he storms out. But yeah, so Star Trek 4, fantastic. Again, it's either that or Star Trek 2. Those are your bets. And then it's interesting that this YouTube video pops up into my feed the day after I watch it. But it says Star Trek 5 is not as bad as you remember. And, well, I don't remember it being bad. But, a few questionable moments or moments that could have been better, but it's still a good movie. We got Uhura here on the cover, and again, there's Enterprise and Kirk and Spock on the back. So they do look very similar, which is okay. I couldn't find the VHS tapes we used to have. They had a nice set, and maybe I'll put in a picture of it here. But they used to have a nice set where it was the first 5 movies, and then of course Undiscovered Country came out, and they just added onto that for the picture of the Enterprise on the one side, and the other side I think was space, but yeah, so back in the VHS days. But I think those were replaced when we got this set. So there's that. Excuse me. But yeah, Star Trek 5. He's climbing a rock. There's the Nimbus 3 action. Sybok, sort of, who's Spock's half brother in a strange twist of fate. He sort of, I guess it's brainwashing, but it's more like helping people to accept their pain. But is he brainwashing them, or is he just suppressing those negative emotions? So anyone who he does that to is like really happy, and that's how they agree to help him get through, well, capture the town and then get the Enterprise. So yeah, pretty interesting there. I mean, there are a few blatant errors, like when they're shooting up the turbo shaft, and you see them pass 64, but then they pass 55 on the way to the top. So I mean, that's blatantly obvious. But I know this ship like the back of my cloak, and this Scotty gets knocked out and sent to sick bay, which is why he's not brainwashed. But yeah, relevant question: what does God need with a starship? If he's everywhere and anywhere all at once, you know, why would he need a starship? But it's actually an alien imprisoned on that planet, and they take care of that. So Star Trek 5, again, might be better than you think. It might be as good as you remember it, or as bad as you remember it, because, you know, everybody has opinions. And one more, we've got Star Trek 6, The Undiscovered Country, and we got Scotty on the cover of this one, and the back, again, looking very similar. But I remember seeing this in theaters as well, and fantastic movie, great action, great story. The Klingons finally get their man, put Kirk on trial, even though he escapes the ice planet. Sulu gets his own command with the Excelsior, so that's awesome. And I meant to do that. But yeah, Star Trek 6, which is the last movie here for 31 days of Star Trek, is gonna be awesome. And finally, we've got Star Trek: The Captain's Summit, which appears to be an interview with 4 captains here. I'm not sure who that person is on the right, but you've got Jonathan Frakes as Captain Riker. If you watched, actually, was he promoted in the movies? But if you watch Picard, you'll know he's a captain. Admiral Picard, who also was promoted in Picard. No, well, by the time that series happened. Leonard Nimoy as Captain Spock, which you'll know from the movies. And, of course, Kirk here, William Shatner. So this exclusive interviews with cast members, that seems really interesting. We'll look forward to checking that out after the movie. And also, it appears that we've got this Obi, which, what is an Obi in English here? Which was surrounding this thing. You can see what it looks like here. And if we reassemble this, I'll show you what it looks like. Would have looked like store-bought. So yeah, there is the complete one with Star Trek Original Motion Picture Collection. You got the Starfleet insignia, and includes 6 motion picture movies on DVD featuring Kirk and Spock. And in the back, which is the same picture here. So, yep, there you go. And over 2.5 hours of special features, some of which are like Starfleet informational videos, which they give to cadets based on the situations that happen in the movie. Like there's one in the Voyager program, and I think there's an information about Nimbus 3. So those are kind of interesting, but it's more like when they do interviews with the directors and producers or the Science Fiction Museum up in Washington, I think it is. So yeah, and then we got a whole disc here of bonus content. So that's gonna be interesting to check out. Again, if you're not watching them in order, which is what you should do, so you understand all the story and have that build up that we've been mentioning. But if you're just gonna watch two for the action and amazing story, you can start off with Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, or for fun and whales, you can start off with Star Trek IV. Again, you can't go wrong with either one, and you'll have fun if you do watch the entire series. But yeah, if you watched, hope you've been watching Star Trek for 31 Days of Star Trek. Thank you for following along with all of the content, and we'll get ready for the next 31 days probably for Nintendo in March, so stay tuned for that. But of course, they'll be streaming on Twitch and the regular YouTube content as well. So until next time, live long and prosper, and keep dancing.